What's going on, everyone? Hope all of you are doing well. Hope everyone had a great day. And depending on what time you're having, not having, but man, I cannot speak for the life of me. Depending on what time of the day you are watching this, first and foremost, let me say good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and good night. So I have already done two movie recommendations, and surprisingly, those videos are doing very well. I have two so far. The first one being Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield, and then the second one is October Sky. So far, good. Today's movie recommendation is actually going to be a few movies. This is going to be a 80s edition and more of a 80s comedy edition. I was born, back up before I get ahead of myself. I was born in the mid to late 80s. Basically, I was born in 86. So I got the opportunity to, live before growing up in the 90s, I got to at least, have the last 3 years of the 80s to grow up in. And I do feel like it still counts. But, to me, the 80s and the 90s, I would say is probably the two best decades when it comes to films. Don't get me wrong, the 70s had a lot of great films, but I feel like the 80s and 90s had something special. Not only were you getting your big theatrical release movies, but left and right you were getting these low budget, straight to home video releases, whether that was comedy, um, action, horror. Sci fi, drama, there was always something, and TV made movies as well. So I feel like the 80s and the 90s definitely had something special. Unfortunately, you don't see it as often today as you would back then. But the 80s did definitely give us some classics, whether that was starring the likes of John Candy, Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd. I mean, the list just goes on and on. Eddie Murphy is a prime example. Um, Michael Keaton, Michael J. Fox. I mean, there's so many great actors. And then, of course, the 80s also brought in, films that would have actors way before they became, the big stars that they are now. So today I wanted to recommend some of my favorite comedy films from the 80s. It's one of my favorite genres alongside horror. Those are the two I like. I do like action. I'm more into like the low budget, straight to home video action films like Van Damme, Stallone, Chuck Norris, Cynthia. What is her last name? It's Rock something. I can't think of her name, Mark DeCoscos. Now, of course, I didn't grow up with a lot of them, in the 80s and 90s. Of course, I grew up with Van Damme, Arnold, Stallone, all of those three are the main three that I grew up with. Steven Seagal was kind of here and there, not really one I caught interest in. And Chuck Norris, I knew who he was, but, any type of film other than Walker Texas Ranger, that series, I really never saw anything that he did. Same with Charles Bronson. And that's the great thing about YouTube. A lot of these YouTubers who collect, films from these actors and watch them, are pretty much the reason why I started getting into a lot of them. Like Charles Bronson is a great example. So, I start to slowly get into a lot of those films, with like Mark DeCosco and Mike, what is it, Dudikoff? I can't remember his name. Is it Michael Dudikoff or something like that? Like with the American Ninja films, which I do want to eventually get those as well. So I'm slowly progressing into, checking out all these different, you know, action films. But yeah, 80s and 90s, such a great decade. And I will probably do a follow up. But yeah, comedy and horror, my favorites. Action would be my third. The drama genre is not my biggest. I'm very story driven for those. So, like films like Patch Adams with Robin Williams, Jack, What Dreams May Come, A Walk to Remember, The Boy in the Striped Pajama. Those are movies that I do enjoy and I do like because, you know, the story is so intriguing and really gets you, you know, it's like you get so invested into the film. I'm not a person who would cry during a movie when something sad happens, but one film has done that, and that is The Boy in the Striped Pajama. Um, yeah. And one thing about me that you guys may not know is I do like foreign films. I haven't watched a lot of foreign films, but I do like foreign films. But for me, I can't watch them dubbed. It just depends on what it is. Like MXC, I can watch that dubbed. It's entertaining. But when I watch a lot of movies, I can't watch them dubbed. They have to have the original, native language. So when Kung Fu Hustle came out, I actually saw that in theater and it wasn't dubbed, and the experience I had was great. A lot of times you don't have to sit there and read it. You can understand what's going on and you can catch a little bit of what they're saying. But let's go ahead and get into this video so I don't make it too long. But before I do, I'm going to take a sip of my water. All right, so we are going to start off with Michael J. Fox, and that is Teen Wolf. Michael J. Fox has had a lot of movies in the 80s and the 90s. Of course, excuse me. Of course, he'd be diagnosed with the disease that he has. I do apologize if I can't think about it. Think of it right now. What is it? Parkinson's, I believe. And I think he was diagnosed at a very young age. So it has limited on what he can do, or what he can and can't do when it comes to filming, because he has done some stuff while dealing with his Parkinson's, like Scrubs. He was I think he did maybe an episode or two for a guest appearance, I believe, or it just might have been one episode, but he was able to at least come back. And a lot of his earlier stuff from the 80s, or I mean 90s, but he was a big star in the 80s. Back to the Future, Family Ties. So Teen Wolf, such a fun classic 80s comedy where he basically finds out he's a werewolf. Of course, there was a follow-up with Jason Bateman called Teen Wolf 2, which I highly recommend. I actually watched that film for the first time, I think at the beginning of this year, and I did do a review for it. And to be honest with you guys, I was very surprised at how good that movie was. I really, really enjoyed it. I would have liked to see a Teen Wolf 3 and have Jason Bateman and Michael J. Fox come together, but unfortunately, that never happened. But I would like to see maybe a modern day Teen Wolf sequel, and have Michael J. Fox's character and Jason Bateman's character come back, and their kids have the gene, and I think it would be fun. It would be like a nice little crossover that we never really got. I would have loved to see it. I think a third Teen Wolf movie would have been great if it had came out like maybe the early 90s or maybe late 80s, not too long after the second film, and just bring Michael J. Fox, Jason Bateman back together. It could have been like a buddy comedy. I think it would have done really, really well. But unfortunately, it didn't happen. But yeah, it's just a really fun and entertaining movie. The actor who plays Francis in Pee Wee's Big Adventure is in this. He plays one of the, I believe, like the friend, and he's also on the basketball team. And yeah, it's just a fun movie about a high school teenager who finds out he's a werewolf, and he kind of learns a few lessons along the way. But yeah, definitely one I would recommend for sure. This one was released in 1985. Next, we have a, to me, this is, it kind of goes into that category of like cult classic comedies, films that may not necessarily had like a popularity when it first coming out, and may not have a popularity as the films were getting released on home video. There's just, for a lot of people who are not familiar with the term cult classic, they're usually films that have grown a cult following but are not like so popular to everybody else. Teen Wolf, everybody knows what Teen Wolf is, but this next one kind of in that category where it's like some people have never heard of it, or something like that. I could be just talking out of my ass at this moment, but I've always loved this series. I can't remember if I watched it on TV. I may have watched it on one like TNT or TBS way back in the day, and I think they were doing a marathon where it was all four movies, and I grew a love for these movies. When it comes to like the really raunchy 80s comedies, that's where I just absolutely love because they're just so entertaining. And of course, they got away with a lot of things that to this day you definitely couldn't. But that is Revenge of the Nerds. Just a fun, 80s comedy, of course. The cliche of nerds back in the 80s compared to what nerds are now. Yeah, very, very cliche when it comes to it. But the cast in this is fantastic. John Goodman, before his Roseanne days, I don't even think he was doing a whole lot during that time. As I don't know why I said that. It sounded like a southern accent. He may have done a few things during that time, but wasn't really like mainstream. Eventually, Roseanne and all the other films he did back in the 80s and 90s, like Matinee and The Babe, I believe, is another one. I mean, there's just so many. He's still acting to this day. It also stars Anthony Edwards, who would go on to do ER. He was in Top Gun. So I've always been a fan of his. Excuse me. Excuse me. Especially during the ER days. Eventually, he would leave that series. He's guest starred on Law and Order. He played Detective Benson's, former partner. So yeah, he's been doing a lot. I don't know what he's been up to since. I don't know if I've done reviews for the Revenge of the Nerd films, but I definitely will be doing those hopefully soon. Unfortunately, the first movie is only available on Blu-ray. Will we get a 4K? Probably not. It's under the Fox label, but if we do, I would not be surprised if this movie ends up getting a Criterion release. I feel like it's one of those movies that there is that possibility it could be a future Criterion release, especially yeah. It's like my brain's trying to get ahead of me. Considering it has a cult following and it's a cult classic, and there's just so much with the universe and so much with the actors to this day and conventions, I would not be surprised if it got a Criterion release. But to be honest with you, I feel like they should just do a box set. The other three sequels don't have Blu-rays. When the DVD came out, the special edition DVD, they released that separately, and then they released the Atomic Wedgie box set, which included part two, and then for the first time on DVD, parts three and four. Because part one and two were actually on DVD, they were part of that Fox double feature. Which I think one movie was on one disc, and the other film was on the other side. There's a couple releases. There was the Revenge of the Nerds two films, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie and Turbo, The Fly and The Fly 2, and then I think there was The Fly and the remake. And like I said, there was the remake, the first movie and the second movie. So yeah, there was a couple of those, but I remember having that for so long. I remember getting that at like Best Buy for like $10. And yeah, to this day, we're still not getting the other films. Excuse me. They've never been released separately on DVD. Excuse me. And they never been released on Blu-ray or even 4K. So I don't know. I hope one day we will. But considering they are under the Fox label, it's hard to say. hopefully with Sony, having the rights, I would not be surprised if films like Porky's and Revenge of the Nerds they get 4K releases, because to be honest with you guys, a lot of these classic films from the 80s and 90s are looking really really good on 4K. A lot of films are benefiting from it. Others maybe not so much, but like Batman Returns is a prime example on how well a 4K can look with an older film. So, but yeah, Revenge of the Nerds is just fun. Great characters like Booger, Poindexter, Lamar. I mean, there's just so many. The one actor who plays the bully in this, I think the character's name is Dan. He went on to do like Married with Children, and I think he showed up after the actor who played the first the husband and when the series started. That actor left, and then they brought the actor from these movies. Um, at least the actors in the first film, and then I think he's in the third and fourth. But yeah, he's in this, and yeah, just a really fun one. And this was from 1984, so this actually marks its 40th anniversary. Where's that 40th anniversary edition? Like, come on, you know. Next is one of my personal favorites, and that is Weird Science. This one is from, I believe, 85. Do not quote me on that. Yes, 85. 85 was a good year. I think 85 and 86, maybe 87 were like the three best years of films. And I think 89 and 88 were as well, but not as good. I feel like around like 84 to 86. But a little fun fact, my father can recite every line, all the lines in this movie. Like, this is his all-time favorite. I remember watching it on TV one time. He was just going with the with the what they were saying, and I'm like, you want me to just turn the volume off and you can just do the whole movie for me? um I can't do that. I can do that with like Smash Mouth's All-Star song, but I can't do that with this. um it's a fun one. It's it's well known, but I feel like it still doesn't get talked about compared to like 16 Candles, Pretty in Pink, and things like that. But Weird Science, basically, you have these two friends. I want to say it's Wyatt and Garrett. Gary and Wyatt. Okay, I was close. Basically, they create their dream woman. She's got these powers, and her goal is to get them out of their shell because they're nerds. They want to, hook up with these girls and get girlfriends or whatever, and they, can't. They have a hard time doing that. They're very like socially awkward. Of course, Gary has to deal with Chet, his brother, who is played really, really well by the late Bill Paxton. Kelly LeBrock. Mm, 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 mm. I know she did that. What was it, like that celebrity boot camp, where like the celebrities had to go and do this boot camp in order to drop some weight. I know. I believe she was in that, and now she's aged well. I think she's taken care of herself. I know for a while she did not look so great. Um, but I know she was married to Steven Seagal for a little while, I believe. Don't quote me on that. Um, Sometimes I can remember a little bit, but I'm not 100% sure if it's accurate or not. But it's just a fun one. The soundtrack to this is great. Danny Elfman and his band from the 80s does this. I forgot what they call it. I have a hard time pronouncing it. I'm trying to see if it's on the back of this. I'm hoping it is, but I don't believe it's going to. Um, yeah, it doesn't say. I was hoping it would. Yeah, it doesn't say. But they do the Weird Science song. But yeah, just a fun one. Next, we have Ferris Bueller's Day Off with Matthew Broderick. This is from '86, the year I was born. Basically, he pretends to be sick and goes on a full days out with his best friend and his girlfriend. In the meantime, his principal is trying to catch him in the act, and he has to get back home before his parents can catch him. We've all done something similar to this in some way, but it's a fun one. Matthew Broderick, I think a lot of his films from the 80s were really good. Very underrated, a lot of the stuff he's done. I think like there's War Games, there's this, and there's a few other ones I think he's done. Like there's one where he's like in the military, I think. I think that might be, yeah, it might be 80s. I could be wrong on that, but he's got a lot of good stuff. I don't feel like people watch them and talk about them often, which is unfortunate. But Ferris Bueller's Day Off is definitely on that list of just fun, classic 80, comedies from the 80s. That's the best, I guess, best grammar to put. Sometimes I can't speak properly, so I do apologize. And then lastly is probably on my top, I would say like my top five favorite comedies of all time. This one is from 1985. A couple 85 films. This one has a very young Val Kilmer. Val Kilmer, a lot of people don't realize that he actually did some movies in the 80s. Of course, he did Top Gun. I think a lot of us know him from that. And of course, the 90s with Heat. Was Heat 90s? Or was it late 80s? I could be wrong on that. I think it was 90s. There was Heat. Um, excuse me. Heat might have been 95 or something like that. I don't know. But there's that. The Saint, which is a favorite of mine. I didn't even realize that had a Blu-ray release. And then, of course, there's Batman Forever, which a lot consider to be a pretty good Batman film. I think it's pretty good. I saw it in theater. I enjoyed it. He's my second Batman, if I'm going to be honest. Michael Keaton's my first. Val Kilmer is my second. But it's the film Real Genius. This has got a great cast. You've got, of course, oh my God, Val Kilmer in it. And then you have the actor who plays Uncle Rico in Napoleon Dynamite. Of course, he was a werewolf in Fright Night and the Monster Squad. He's in this. The love interest for the nerd, like, I guess he's a nerd in a way, but you have this young kid, Mitch, I believe is the character's name. He's very young. Excuse me, I think he's like a teenager or something like that, but he's a genius basically. He goes to this college to attend, but he's kind of geeky. You got this jock nerd. Well, no, he's not a jock. He's basically like this sophisticated nerd that kind of picks on him. But then you have guys like Val Kilmer's character and the friends he hangs out with kind of take this, kind of take Mitch under his wing. The love interest for Mitch is actually the love interest for Gilbert in Revenge of the Nerds. I didn't realize that until I was like watching a video a while back. So I thought that was a really cool, fun movie fact. You've got the actor who plays Dickless. Well, that's not his character's name, but that's what Bill Murray calls him in Ghostbusters. He's in this. Yes, he's the villain in it. One of the villains in it. I guess is the best way to put it. But yeah, it's just a fun one. It's not one I hear people talk about. I was very happy when this first was announced on 4K, and I'm going to be honest, it actually looks really good on 4K. Now that I have a new TV, I am long overdue for a revisit on this one, so I actually may do a format review, because I did do a movie review, and I talked a little bit about the quality on this, but I think I'm going to actually go and try to see if it looks a lot better compared to what I had, because I had like a 43 inch. Now I have like a 55 inch, but I also have what is it, like a OLED, I believe, or a QLED, one of those LED type. So a lot of my 4K titles that looked pretty decent on my old TV look 10 times better on this new one. Like Beetlejuice looks fantastic. Phantasm 2 sounds amazing. So yeah, a lot of my 4K titles that I'm revisiting are looking and sounding better. So yeah, Real Genius is long overdue, but this one's a fun one. I wish it would get talked about a little bit more, and definitely try to pick this one up if you can. It is region free, so you can import it. I think a lot of, want to say every 4K title is region free. I think the Blu-rays, of course, are going to be region locked depending on your location. So that's the one thing I like about 4Ks is that you can import them. Like there's two I want to import that I have my eyes on for tax season. That is American Pie, and I also want to get the American Pie present films because I guess a lot of films are getting like the burn on demand type of release. So like all the American Pie present films are on Blu-ray. Well, the Book of Love has always been on Blu-ray, but they released Girls Rule, Beta House, The Naked Mile, and Bandcamp. Those all got Blu-ray releases, and of course the trilogy does. Or not, well, it's not a trilogy anymore. It's called Quadrilogy. But the first movie got released on 4K overseas. I'm hoping the other films get a 4K release. I'm not holding my breath on it, but I do want to pick that up. And Austin Powers got a uh, got a 4K release. Unfortunately, it's just the first movie. Now, mind you, the Blu-ray, when I watched those movies, what maybe last year or the year before, on my 4K TV and player, because it upscales it, it looked really, really good. I could not get over how well it upscaled and how great the colors were. I can only imagine how this 4K transfer is going to look. Um, so I'm pretty excited. But yeah, those are the films that I recommend from the 1980s. 84, 85, and 86. Three of my favorite years of films. So yeah, if you guys have seen these movies, let me know what your thoughts are. I would love to hear your guys' opinion. And for those who have not seen them, give them a watch. I think they're movies you guys will have a good time with. They're fun, they're cheesy. I think they're those movies that are perfect to have a cold one, whether that's, a nice cola or a nice Corona or Miller Lite, Guinness, whatever you drink, and some Chinese food. I feel like Chinese food is like the perfect dinner when it comes to any type of movie and any type of genre. But of course, pizza is another one, and a burger and fries. Those are like the three meals I feel like fit perfectly for any movie that you watch. I don't know what it is, but I just feel like they just have that universal feel to them. But thank you guys so much for joining me on this third movie recommendation, and it being some classic comedies from the 80s. I hope you guys enjoyed, and definitely keep watching my videos. Definitely like my videos. I think if you like my videos, it kind of helps me boost up in the searches, and I'm trying to slowly, reach my all-time goal of getting monetized. I'm very passionate about films. I actually had a comment a few years ago. Well, maybe it was last year or the year before. Somebody commented about how passionate I am. Yeah, I can get passionate about a lot of things, and YouTube is definitely one of them. Um, so, yeah, I just want to say thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm hoping to do a Q&A. I would like to do a Q&A. I try to do a Q&A announcement, but I got nothing in the way of questions, so I would like to do a Q&A. So there is a possibility for that. I'm also going to do a trailer reaction, and I will also be working on giving my thoughts about certain, you know, news when it comes to film. Like it was just announced that a Scrubs reboot or continuation I wouldn't say it's a reboot. It's just a more of a continuation in the works. So I will be giving my thoughts on that. But yeah, just a couple of videos that I plan to have hopefully soon. But I just want to say thank you to all of you who take the time out to like my videos, watch my videos, and comment. You guys don't know how much it means to me. and it keeps me going, and it's much appreciated. And of course, I try to do the same. Guys, if you want me to subscribe to your channel, don't be shy to let me know down in the comment section below. I am always going to subscribe to people. I'm going to watch their videos. I'm going to like their videos. So, I like to give back, and that, it only feels right. If somebody's going to take the time out to watch your video, subscribe to your channel, turn around and do the same thing. It's only right. We're helping each other grow. We're talking about films and our passion for it, and yeah. So don't want to make this video too long. I'm already at the 30-minute. Hopefully I can start making a lot more longer videos. Let me know down in the comment section below. Do you guys prefer longer videos, like maybe 20 minutes to 30 minutes or longer, or would you prefer something short, or just a variety of both? Because I can do both. But nonetheless, thank you guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I'm sure I've already said that. Film Talk with Mikey. Till next time, guys, we'll talk films. You guys take care. Have a good one, and I will see you next time.